Being able to do a standard gel polish manicure is one of the most important fundamental pieces of doing gel nails, especially before we move on to more advanced stuff. So today I'm going to show you all the pieces of the puzzle in real time so you can see exactly how long it takes me to do a gel polish manicure my way, and we're going to use the most basic methods before we move into more advanced techniques. Hey guys, Liz here from the Nail Hub, and today, like I mentioned, I want to really show you guys in real time what it looks like when I do the very most basic gel polish manicure. At this point, I'm not really going to get into how you can get that Russian style application or anything that you may have seen from me before on Instagram or social media. For most of you, this is going to be a really important thing for you to see a real-time gel polish manicure start to finish and the most basic procedures and steps. You'll also notice that I do one finger at a time for most of my process, and this allows me to maintain control no matter what gel I pick up. Oftentimes, if you get comfortable with your gel, you can create your own process about how many fingers you do, which fingers you do first, which fingers you do last. Everyone has a slightly different style, especially depending on the product they work with. But I have found that the one finger method really speeds up my time, gives me complete control over my product, eliminates a lot of those issues like flooding the cuticle or having the gel slop to one side. And if I end up picking up a gel polish that is thinner in consistency or is different than what I'm used to working with, I don't have to worry about it getting crazy on me because I'm able to keep that control no matter what product I pick up. So this is something that I really like to use. I know for some of you are thinking, why would she do one finger at a time? But if you watch the timer, you'll notice that I actually am able to do this in a very efficient amount of time and maintain complete control over my application throughout the appointment. Today I'm going to be using the following equipment. Your standard 3-step gel polish system with base, color, and top coat, a plastic manicure scrub brush, a French manicure brush that I love to use to clean up gel polish if I get it on the skin, a cuticle pusher, a pair of nippers, some wipes, an emery board, a buffer, and some gel cleanser. Today, I've got a special guest being my model. My hubby, Herman, is going to step in and give me his lovely hands. And in honor of Halloween, I am going to be doing a nice orange shade on him. So without further ado, here is Herman and his cute, hairy fingers. Okay, so before I get started with any cuticle prep, I want to cleanse the nails to take off any oils and bacteria. So I'm going to use my gel cleanser and wipe down all the nails and the surrounding skin. Sometimes when we file and buff the nail during prep, we're actually pushing the surface oils into the nail plate, and we definitely don't want that. So I just quickly go through and clean all the nails before I start filing and prepping. Then I'm going to take a cuticle pusher and I'm just gently going to go through each finger and push back the skin and get any dead cuticle off of the nail plate. Just really gentle pressure, allowing the tool to do the work for you. And again, I like to do this dry. The drier that you can keep the nail, the more your gel is going to last. So just a quick push back here. I'm pushing back the cuticle for a couple of reasons. I know I've gotten asked this before. So I'm trying to get rid of any dead tissue that's on the nail plate. And I'm also trying to gently push back the eponychium, which is the skin back here, because I want to expose the maximum amount of nail plate I can. And I want to try and get a nice uniform shape for my gel polish application. Doing this gently over time can help train someone's cuticles to have more of a uniform shape. And we definitely don't want to use any blunt pressure because we don't want to damage the nail plate. So while this has still got some dust on it, I want to go through and file the free edge. So I'm using an emery board to go through and just gently file the shape. I recommend removing harsh corners on gel polish clients. Even though a lot of clients like squarish nails, I find that corners tend to break really easily for most people. So a squoval or rounded shape is going to be your best bet for really long-lasting wear. And again, we're just going to be doing regular gel polish today. So once we get into overlays and artificial enhancements, I'll show you guys how you can create any shape that you want with the strength that's going to last. So depending on how much you need to take down, you can also clip the nails first before you start filing. But I'm just going to do a little bit. And also, even though clients are going to want their nails really, really short, I do recommend that you explain to clients that having a little bit of a free edge is important so that the gel can actually adhere to the free edge, wrap around, and that way you're going to prevent chipping, lifting, and also shrinkage during curing. So definitely don't be afraid to, negotiate per se with your client or to discuss with your client the advantages and disadvantages of each of their requests. You are the professional, so it's a good idea to make sure they understand what the consequences are of their decisions. Okay, so I've done a quick file of the free edge. I'm now going to go through with a buffer, and I just want to remove the natural shine, and I can go right up close to the cuticle area to get rid of any debris or dead tissue that's still on the nail plate. If you've done a removal on the client and they still have a teeny bit of residual gel, don't worry. As long as it's not lifting, this isn't going to be a problem. And the buffer is going to make sure that that ends up nice and smooth and doesn't add texture to your finished manicure. So just gently going through, I just want to remove the natural shine. I'm not trying to scuff up the nail plate or rough up the nail plate. I just want to remove the natural shine and give the gel a little bit of texture on the nail plate to adhere itself to. And again, this is a very standard type of gel polish manicure. We'll get into advanced e-file manicures later, but I really want you guys to feel secure with just a basic gel polish manicure application. If you can get this down in a timely manner and in an efficient manner, you're going to be really successful with any services you end up adding after this. Okay, so I have pushed back the cuticle, I have filed the free edge. If there's any skin, you can nip it this time if you'd like to. You can dust off the nails if you can't see, or clean them one more time. There's not a lot of skin here. And again, we don't want to overcut. A lot of this is going to look much better when it's moisturized, and we don't want to take anything away that is protecting the client's fingers. So I'm just going to take a teeny bit off where I see any tissue that I think might impact my application. Just a little bit here and there. And this gets much easier over time. As you work on the same client on a regular basis, their cuticle care is going to become faster and faster, especially if they're moisturizing their fingers at home. So just taking a quick peek, seeing if there's any areas where you want to remove. Very gentle. And if there's not a huge flap, I like to do the overhand, especially because I understand where my corners are on my nipper, but you can use the underhanded technique as well if you want to be able to see the backside of your jaws. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'm going to cleanse the nails one more time with my gel cleanser, remove any dust and debris that I just created, really scrubbing them well. You can use a wipe for this, or the other thing I like to use now that the nails are clean is I love to use a manicure brush. Some people don't like this because they say it spreads oils around, but we have actually removed the oils prior to filing and buffing and prepping the nail plate, and I did not use any cuticle remover or any other agents, so I can absolutely take my cleanser pump and my manicure brush, pump up and down, get my brush wet, and I can scrub all the nitty-gritty areas of each finger, even up underneath the free edge. And I really love using this because it helps to get all of that dust out of the sidewalls and the cuticle area. I also love manicure brushes because they can be sanitized, so I can put them in my Quat solution after washing them, and I can reuse them. And sometimes while you're cleaning, you might start to see a little bit of skin that you do want to remove, so don't be afraid to go back and fix anything that you notice before application. Sometimes things start to peek out as you're working on the fingers. Okay, so all the fingers are nice and clean. I'm gonna give this a second to fully dry to make sure that I don't have wet nails before I'm applying my product. And the other thing I like to do right before I apply gel polish is I do like to go back with my cuticle pusher and just gently, very gently push the eponychium back one more time. This helps to just tuck the skin one last time, get as much exposure of the nail plate, and this is really going to make the regrowth less noticeable so the person's gel polish manicure can last a lot longer. A 3-week gel polish manicure will look like a 2-week gel polish manicure if you really do a good job of tucking everything back. And again, I'm doing it very gently. I'm not shoving my pusher underneath the skin. I'm just tucking the skin back one last time. All right, so I am going to start with my base coat. Now, if you do want to use a non-acid primer on the very tips, on the free edge, that actually will help with adhesion. But remember, when you use non-acid primer, it does make your gel polish much more difficult to remove. So if you're looking for a client to just come back every 2 weeks, I recommend you avoid non-acid primer. So I'm just gonna put a thin amount on the nail plate, get it wet. And if you're working with short nails, remember you can push the skin back, do the brush in reverse mode like I showed you in my gel polish base coat video, and then smooth it out. Try and get the base coat as close to the cuticle and sidewalls as possible, and really use your light to check the reflection to see if the gel is all the way on the sidewall. So I'm gonna have my client cure that. I love to do one finger at a time. I find that one finger at a time allows me to maintain control no matter what product I'm using. It's a really good habit for me because no matter what product I pick up, if I'm teaching with something different, or if I'm used to one gel polish and I end up using a friend's, I'm gonna maintain control no matter what I've got. And for those of you that are just learning how to do gel polish, the one finger technique is really going to help you keep control over your gel no matter what you're using. So I'm just pushing and bulldozing, and I'll zoom in for you guys so you can see. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just putting the gel in the middle of the nail, getting the whole nail wet and using the majority that's on the brush in the center of the nail. And then I'm just gonna bulldoze or push the product up as close to the cuticle area as possible and then stop. And you'll notice I've got the fingers tipped down ever so slightly. This actually helps me to keep the gel away from the cuticle area. And I'm using my reflection to check that the whole nail is completely covered. Okay, switch. If you get too much on your brush, especially if it's a new bottle of base coat, don't be afraid to scrape some off in the bottle while you're working. And for short nails, I do like to put my finger on the end of the finger and pull the skin downwards. That helps me cap the free edge. And then right after I'm done with that, I go back and I smooth the top so I don't have a little hump at the end of the nail. If you don't like the brush that's in your bottle, you can absolutely use a gel brush and a palette with this base coat. So just because something comes in a bottle doesn't mean you have to use the brush that it comes with. So feel free to pour out some gel while you're working and use whatever your favorite brush is. I do that a lot, especially if I want to have more product control and I also want to put more pressure on the base coat as I'm working it into the finger. So I'll zoom out so you can see the whole hand. So again, I'm doing one finger at a time. I'm just flash curing the nails as we go. I've got my lamp set on a 10-second timer. And I really love this, especially for the base coat, because I find base coat is usually the layer where if you get any of it on the skin, every subsequent layer you put on, all the color, everything is going to want to follow that base coat that has touched the sidewall or the cuticle area. So if you're really cautious with your base coat, you're going to have complete control over everything throughout the appointment. And as I cure, if we think about this, this finger has now gotten 30 seconds of cure time because I've done these 3 nails. So it's been 10, 10, and 10, which means this one has gotten 30 seconds, this one's gotten 20 seconds, this one has gotten 10 seconds. So you really don't have to worry about over curing with this. The consequences of over curing gel I have found are very minimal. Under curing is a bigger issue. But if you're using a high quality gel, you can absolutely flash cure your nails in between. And like I said, the base coat for me is probably the most important for this step, as well as top coat, because I like to use my top coat to fix any imperfections in the nail. So I like to float it over the whole finger, and I'll show you that in a second. Pointer fingers do a really good job of capping. These are the fingers where they get used a lot. So do a really good job of getting that gel over the free edge on both pointer fingers, especially if the person's right-handed. You might even want to do a little bit of extra capping on the right hand, on the thumb and the pointer finger, and that will really help to make sure that the client's not going to wear through their gel polish. Gel polish is a soak-off product, and typically soak-off products like gel polish tend to be softer and more porous. And so they're more prone to getting worn through. So just because you cap the free edge now doesn't mean it's going to last for the full 2 or 3 weeks. If the client is rubbing the ends of their free edge on things like they're taking stickers off of stuff, or they're using their fingers to scratch things or rub on things, over time they're going to actually wear through that base coat and that color and that top coat, and their free edge is going to get exposed. So that's why on dominant fingers, we really want to do a good job of applying the base coat all the way on the corners, on the insides of the thumb, and really concentrating to make sure that that product is nicely applied. Pulling back the skin really helps to make sure that you're not touching the skin underneath. And then you can also run your finger underneath the nail if you want to make sure there's no base coat before curing. So I'm going to do the last thumb of base coat. And really, to get good at this, it just takes practice. The first few times I did gel polish, it was just all over the place. It was too thin, it was too thick, it was splotchy. So the more you work with your products, the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. And if you can master a regular gel polish manicure and get it to last and last, then anything else you end up working on later is going to be that much better. I find that being good at the basics really help with all the advanced techniques. Okay. So now that we've done the thumbs, we want to make sure that they've gotten a full cure time. So this thumb has gotten 20 seconds. So I'm going to have my client make sure that they get 30 seconds on all fingers. So by the time you're done, the pinky and the ring finger might be a teeny bit over cured, but these are also non-dominant fingers, so we don't really care about that. The ones that we really care about are the middle, pointer, and thumb, because these are the ones that get used the most. So just make sure by the time you're done with each one finger that you've gotten full cure time on all 5 fingers. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my color application. And I do tend to like to start with pinky nails. So if you want to do that, you can do that, or you can start with thumbs. But I tend to start with pinky nails because at the end I can do the thumbs separately. So for my first coat of color, I want the color to be nice and even as humanly possible. If the first coat is splotchy, everything else is going to look splotchy as well. And you can also peel back the skin of the sidewalls with your finger. So I'm going to take, I've got a little bit of gel here on the sides. I'm going to take my cleanser and just a regular French manicure brush that you can get almost anywhere. Dab off the excess, and then I can use this with my gel cleanser to clean up the gel, almost like it's nail polish. Just clean up the gel before curing. Okay, go and cure, please. So if you do get a little bit on the skin, definitely clean it off before curing. And I find a little bit of cleanser with a gel manicure brush is a really easy way to do that. It's able to get in those little teeny areas You can also use the scraper end of your cuticle pusher, but I like the brush with a little bit of cleanser on it. Make sure you cap the free edge. And when I do color, you'll notice I kind of pull up as I apply the color, and I'm concentrating to make sure that I don't have a concentration of product. So if I turn this finger all the way to the side, you'll see it's got a nice profile. There's no hump of product on the tip of the nail. So if you're kind of going down like this as you polish, you're going to end up leaving a little hump, and you can see where that little reflection shows that there's a hump on the end of the nail. Can you see that right there? So as I'm applying, I just shift the gel polish around until it's nice and smooth. Okay. So again, this is just the first coat of color. Just applying one nice even coat. Depending on the brand that you use, you're going to have to adjust the thickness of your layers. If you're using a hybrid gel polish, examples would be like CND, Gelish, any of those ones that do have solvents in them, and things like nitrocellulose. They're going to be much more like nail polish than they are gel polish. So you're going to have to make much thinner coats as you do this. I like to use true gels or 100% gels with no solvents in them. I love it because the color never changes, the formula never changes, and I can actually use nice even coats. It also doesn't have a lot of the properties of a hybrid gel, so it's less prone to chipping. And it just makes for a nice smooth application. So I just keep going one finger at a time, back and forth. If you're using a really dark color like black, I actually find that curing it longer helps. So when you're doing this flash curing process, you may even want to do the black for 30 seconds each time on each finger. That really ensures that you've got a long cure with highly pigmented colors like black. In my opinion, reds tend to be difficult, chalky whites tend to be difficult, and also sometimes neons, depending on the neon. Yellows also sometimes have a hard time curing, especially like Crayola crayon yellow. Okay. So I'm just going back and forth, maintaining complete control of my product. And again, you can do all 5 fingers if you want. Again, it just depends on the product you're using, what your personal style is. But I have found that 1 finger at a time for me just makes a perfect manicure. I don't have to fix anything. And it just eliminates a lot of cleanup and potential errors. So if I can get it right the first time, I'd much rather do that than try and do 5 fingers all at the same time and then have curing issues or have, the gel slopping to one side on the pinkies. So just like I did with my base coat, I like to push the product up to the cuticle area rather than paint it on. And this helps me get a nice clean application. And then I am going to peel the skin back at the free edge and really do a good job of capping. I'm also trying to make sure that there's no pooling in any areas that might actually create thickness and create uneven curing. Okay. And I'm not really worried about smoothness at this point. I mean, I do want to make sure that the application is perfectly opaque and even, but for example, Herman has a little bit of a ski jump nail. They're just very flat nail beds, and they do tend to go up at the free edge, which is called a ski jump. Not severe, but just a little bit. And so if I want to fix that, I like to fix it with my top coat at the very end. You can do that also with your base coat, but I find that top coat is a really nice way to do it because you're at the end of the appointment. You can, proceed quickly through the majority of the service, and then at the end, with the extra time that you have, you can go ahead and fix any of those surface imperfections. So I'm just peeling back the skin, making sure that I'm doing a good job of cleaning that off. And I can even use this right here. Okay. Okay, so now that I've done all 5 fingers, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna do my second coat of color. Now the second coat of color should go on really easily, and actually because I did such a good job of going so close to the skin on the first layer, you can go even a little bit closer, or you can just paint like the center 90% of the nail and don't go so close to the skin. So I'm just trying to get that nice opaque finish. I can fix any areas where I'm missing product. And at this point, I can start to think about smoothness. I can tip the finger to the side so I can see, hey, I want to get a little bit closer on this side. Go ahead and switch. I can even do 2 fingers at a time this time because I already have that base layer of color. And I find that when I'm applying the second coat and I've already got a nice clean foundation, that the second coat of color loves to just stay right where it is. So I can do 2 fingers at a time now if I want to, just to speed it up a teeny bit more. And it depends on your comfort level. And if you're using a hybrid formula that kind of air dries as you're working, you can also do all 4 fingers if you want to do it that way as well. I just love the 1 finger technique, and I use this same technique with artificial nails. So if you're going to do the 2 fingers at a time, go ahead and do a full 30-second cure or 2 minutes, whatever your lamp requires. So like on this nail, I've got a little bit of streakiness. So I'm just going to try and smooth that out, keeping in mind the thickness of the coats. But because I'm using a hybrid lamp, I know my lamp is going to do a good job of curing all of this. So checking side to side, making sure that the nail is perfectly covered. And if you put a lot of product on the nail, you can definitely go ahead and cure it. So if you're concerned about a particular nail that you're working on, or you really like the way you applied it and you want to lock that in, I think of curing as like, oh my gosh, I'm happy with what I just did in 1 step. I want to go ahead and lock it in. And I do tend to make dominant fingers just a teensy bit thicker than the rest of the nails because I want it to last. Okay. Okay, so I've got 1 last pointer finger to do, and then I'm going to do thumbs. And as I mentioned in my lamp video, I do recommend curing thumbs separately and completely flat. So before I apply my gel polish on thumbs, sometimes I will move the lamp closer to the edge of the table so that the client can actually put their thumb completely flat. So if they can put their hand underneath the edge of the table and put their thumb into the lamp, that's going to help. And then you can put their whole hand into the lamp to make sure it's gotten enough light exposure. But remember, if you train your clients about the importance of hand position, making sure that they've got their fingers in the right place in your lamp and that they're not relaxing their thumb too much, it should avoid a lot of curing issues. But I do like to cure thumbs flat at least once so that I know that this inner side has gotten enough light exposure. And again, do a really good job of capping every layer that you put on thumbs, especially on this inner corner. That's the one that gets used the most. Okay, switch. So with ski jump nails, you'll notice, you can tell that there's like a little bit of a concentration of product at the cuticle, and then it dips and then it goes back up again. So we're going to fix that with our top coat and just try to adjust that shape. And by adjusting it, it's also going to make the nail stronger. because the client's not going to have kind of that dip in their nail. So if I turn this finger to the side, you'll see what I mean. So it just kind of has a flat shape to it, and it just goes up ever so slightly at the cuticle. It's got this bow shape to it. So I'm gonna fix that with my top coat. Okay, so now I am ready for my top coat layer. I'm gonna use a top coat that I have to cleanse so that you guys can see just regular gel polish application. And with top coat, again, you want to try and coat all of the color. Do a good job with the capping, like that. But the top coat is probably the fastest part. And also, I can take into consideration the curvature of the nail now. So if I want to put a little dot of top coat right here, about 2/3 of the way down, and let it self-level, you can see kind of it self-leveling with the reflection that's on the nail. I can kind of just pull the top coat up and down away from the free edge and concentrate it right in that little zone right there, right in front of the free edge. And it's going to help to make my nails smoother. You can also turn the finger upside down, but basically what I'm trying to do is make sure that the free edge is nice and thin. I've got a concentration running down the center of the nail, and I'm fixing any kind of imperfections in the surface of the shape of the nail. So because I'm applying more product, I do like to do the one finger application again. You can flash cure with this because it's just a clear gel. So I'll put a little dollop right there, let it self-level, check my reflection, and switch. I can only apply gel in about maybe 20 seconds, depending on what it is, sometimes 30 seconds. So I find that the one finger technique is great because by the time I'm done applying a specific finger and I like what I just did, the hand is ready to come out and my client's ready to switch fingers. So again, I like to look at the hand from the side as I'm working. If the client does have kind of corners that flare out, I try to concentrate the product back in here, right here in this 2/3 zone, and then I like to pull it back away from the corners so that the corners aren't exaggerated. So a nice glossy layer. And then if I see anything that I notice as far as the overall shape of the nail, I can go ahead and fix that. Okay. So again, with pointer fingers and thumbs, I do like to build up the nail a little bit more. I'm going to pull back the skin so I can really get top coat on the end of the nail. That way I've got 4 coats of product on the free edge. That's going to help make sure that this product lasts 2 to 3 weeks. Now, if the finger is really flat, I can also turn the hand upside down. And while I'm working upside down, I can look at it from the side. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to look at the profile of the nail while it's upside down, and having it upside down is going to pull that gel down towards my table. So I like to turn the finger upside down, look at it, and wait until the top coat kind of centers in the finger. And then I can have my client flip over and cure. Also, if you're working with gels that do have a pretty strong heat spike, which is the exothermic reaction that happens when gel is cured, This flash curing one finger at a time really helps with that. And you can also utilize that technique I showed you guys in my lamp video, which is put 2 lamps on your table, and while you're working on one hand, have your client flash cure in and out on their other hand. And again, I'm going to turn this upside down. I concentrate a lot on pointers and thumbs to make sure that they look nice. Okay, flip over in here, please. And so this thumb, we've got a pretty substantial kind of dip in it, so I want to kind of fill that in as much as I can with some top coat. And again, this is a basic gel polish manicure. This is one of those services that people just want to get in, they want to get their nails done, they want to get out, and they want it for, you know, probably a lower price than any other service you might end up offering. So I like to keep in mind that I want to make their nails pretty. I want to make them look better than 90% of the other salons that are out there. But I also have to keep in mind how much time I'm spending on this. So if someone's paying me for a regular gel polish manicure, they don't get, you know, artificial level enhancement type of work. They get gel polish. So all I'm doing is during the same appointment, if I can, I'm going to really focus on little tricks here and there to make their nails stronger, high quality, and make them look better than what God gave them. So again, I can put a little bit more product here in the center where I've got that dip. I'm looking at the nail from the side as I'm applying. You can use your reflection also to check your work. Use your line of light. And that's starting to look much more of an oval reflection. Okay, so now I've got all 10 fingers done. I am going to cleanse these. So I'm going to use a clean wipe with my gel cleanser. I'm going to start with the pinky nail because I want to get rid of this inhibition layer, this uncured gel that's in the top coat. And starting with the pinky nail, it's much like how we remove red polish. So we don't want to start with the thumb because if we think about the surface size of the thumb, we're going to get all that uncured gel on our wipe, and then we're going to go down to smaller fingers. So the pinky's going to end up getting uncured inhibition layer on it. So if we start with the pinky nail with the least amount of product on it and we go into the bigger fingers, we're not going to risk getting uncured product on our client. So I like to go back and forth and cleanse the nail, moving your wipe around. Cleanse the nail until you hear like a squeaky noise. That means you've gotten all of the inhibition layer off. You can even open up your wipe and turn it around. Scrub, scrub, scrub side to side and pull down. And when I'm scrubbing side to side, I'm really just staying on the nail plate. I'm not going all over the finger, okay? So now I've got nice shiny gel polish. I'm going to use a clean wipe for the other hand. So again, starting with the pinky nail, scrub, scrub, scrub. And I do like to scrub pretty aggressively. I mean, I don't want to hurt my client, but I do like to really scrub aggressively because I want to make sure that the gauze wipe or the gel wipe I'm using is not catching on anything. I also want to make sure that any uncured gel that might come off is going to come off now because I want to fix it before the person leaves. And it just allows me to make sure that all of that uncured gel is off of the surface. So I add more cleanser if I need it. I move my wipe around and I really try to get the whole nail perfectly clean. So because I add a little bit of acetone to my cleanser, you'll see that it does chalk up the skin a little bit because it really dehydrates and strips oil. And that really helps to get this inhibition layer off. Okay, so now I've got nice shiny nails. Before I go through and I do my cuticle oil, I do like to go through and see if any of the shape is not what I want. So sometimes when we apply gel polish, it might affect the free edge shape or the evenness or the uniformity of the free edge. And also you might have situations where a teeny bit of base coat or color has gotten on the end of the skin. And so I like to go through kind of at a 45-degree angle and file under the nail if I want to perfect the shape. And this makes the nail just look really sharp, really clean, and it's not going to break the seal on your gel polish. So right here, I'll zoom in so you guys can see. Okay, so right here, I've got a little bit of gel color that went over the end of the free edge. Can you see that right there? So I'm going to put my file right up underneath that, and I'm just going to gently file that so it's nice and smooth. This is something that would literally catch on someone's clothing or their hair, and it just feels weird. And a client's going to be prone to trying to pick that off themselves. So see how I just did a teeny bit? The gel is still on the end of the fingernail, but I refined that shape just with my emery board. So thumbs tend to do this because we've got the skin right up against the fingernail. So I do like to go through and just refine that free edge. Okay, so I'm going to check each finger, looking at my application, checking the shape. Maybe do a little bit in here. Right in here, that one looks pretty good. And I did get a teeny bit of gel right up in here. I don't know if you can see that. See how it just touched a teeny bit of grit or skin, and I've got a little bit touching the sidewall. So if you want to, you can very carefully just file right on that little bit, but most of the time it's fine. It's gonna come off and it's not gonna cause any problems. So if you wanna get in there with your emery board, be very, very gentle. Just file right on that little spot. I can even do it this way. So I pull back the skin and I just very carefully file right on that little spot. I'm going to show you guys later when we get into e-filing how you can quickly fix that with your e-file and an awesome bit. But when you're just doing basic beginner gel polish, you got to use what you have. So you can definitely do it with a nail file. So again, I'm going to look for skin that's attached and just refine that shape. I'm using a 45-degree angle with my nail file so that I'm not filing like this and taking off the gel on the free edge. I'm getting kind of up underneath it and refining the free edge from the underside. Okay? Now, I'm going to, as a last step, I'm going to apply cuticle oil to my client's fingers. I love this cuticle oil, and I like to use a dropper because I don't want to get anything in my gel, my cuticle oil bottle. So I like to just put one little drop on each finger, let it sit on the skin, rub it around, let it sit on the skin, get up underneath the free edge. And the other tricky thing about doing cuticle oil at the very end of your appointment is it allows you to feel the finger, so you can rub around and feel, are there any rough edges, are there any bumps? So if there's any bumps, lumps, anything, pieces of grit that might have gotten in your top coat, you'll feel that as you're rubbing the cuticle oil on, and your client won't even know that you're doing that. They'll just think, oh, she's putting cuticle oil on me, but really you're checking your work. And we do want to rehydrate the skin and the nail after we've done all of this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to rub this in, get it all up into the finger, do underneath, really massage it. You can do a lotion massage. You can then do a hot towel wrap if you want to. So if you really want to do a massage afterwards, you can do that, but I'm just doing a basic video for you guys. And then last but not least, before my client leaves and before I take a picture, I'm going to take a clean wipe and I'm just going to buff the excess cuticle oil off of the finger. So this is going to make it so that their fingers aren't super greasy. They can then use their phone again, whatever they want to do. And it makes it look really nice for pictures. My buddy Selena does this as well, and it just makes everything look really nice and healthy without there being globbed on oil on everything. Okay, so I've got these nails done. My poor hubby now has really cute orange gel polish, but that is exactly how you do a basic gel polish application. I hope this video helped you guys, and if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please feel free to comment below this video. I love hearing from all of you. I am also starting to put together awesome questions from all of you for our next Q&A session, so don't be afraid to ask anything regarding this video or previous videos. I am happy to answer whatever I can. You guys have been so good about asking awesome questions and making sure that you're getting the fullest out of all of these videos. And I really encourage you guys to practice this. I know that this might be boring, especially one color short nail manicures, but whether you're a DIYer or you're looking to become a professional nail technician, or you are a professional nail technician or student who's getting into the field, this is one of those bread and butter services that you're gonna do day in and day out, especially when you first get started. Regular short nail gel polish manicures are usually the bread and butter of most salons. And so being able to do it in an efficient amount of time, do it accurately, do it precisely, do it beautifully, but also keeping in mind the price point that you're charging for it. All of these things go into the video that I've done for you guys today with the basic gel polish manicure. A quick note on that is you'll notice that with this service, I didn't go into a lot of those advanced procedures about how to get the color really close to the skin where it looks like it's under the cuticle. The reason why I'm doing such a basic gel polish manicure is this is one of those fundamental pieces that you really need to know before you get into the rest of that. And this is also something that I've noticed a lot of salons and nail technicians charge, in my opinion, less than they should for this service. And a rule of thumb for this is $1 per minute. So if you're only charging $30, $35 for a gel polish manicure, it should only take you 30 or 35 minutes to do. That's a good rule of thumb across the nation for a metric that will kind of keep you in that profitable zone. It varies where you are, but I have found that most nail technicians and salons, $1 a minute is a great price point. Just to keep in mind as you're working and as you're doing things. I'm gonna have some in-depth videos about pricing, about business as we move forward with these tutorials, but that's why I wanted to show you guys such a basic gel polish manicure today, so you can get an idea of how quickly you should be able to do this, especially if you're charging somewhere in that $30 ballpark, which I know a lot of you who have interacted with me on social media sometimes even charge less than that. So keep that in mind. $1 a minute is a really good metric for your menu. And also the client who's coming in who wants a basic gel polish manicure, they're looking for something that's going to last 2 weeks. They don't want to be in your chair for 2 hours while you do this. And so they want to make sure that they're able to get gel polish on, get in, get out, move on with their life. And they're going to be very satisfied with what we talked about today. Okay, so try this out, practice. Make sure that you're following all of these techniques. And even if you're working on yourself, the one finger at a time technique is really going to help you maintain control over your product. Keep it off of the skin and make sure that you have a really nice outcome at the end. Okay? All right, thanks guys, and I will see you next time.